to the first game of the day as we head towards finding out who will receive those invites. Admiral Keen, take it away.
The Dragonlands Mid Set Finale, and this is the finale day. I'm definitely pronouncing that one right. Our first game, we have 6 of them lined up here, and then we'll find out who's lined up in the top 4, and more importantly, who is on top. We're kicking things off with Amde yesterday, who had a fantastic finish to the day, a heaping pile of points on their day 2 finish, Keen, and I will say that the interview we had with them was quite enlightening as well.
Yeah, really interesting player. You know, it's exciting to see him make the final lobby today. He said he had to cancel lunch plans to be able to attend this, so I hope he was able to eat something, and I hope he maybe has some nice dinner reservations lined up after this. I just want to quickly touch on, we were talking about the stakes here. One of the other things to really keep in mind is even though top 4 guarantees a spot at the NA regional finals, even I am somebody who feels like, oh, I just have to be top 32 to make that event. That should be something I am very capable of doing, and I didn't even qualify for this final lobby here. I didn't qualify for this tournament, period. That's something that all 8 players in this lobby should feel comfortable with. They're like, oh, I could definitely hit regionals next set, but that world slot, that is another level. That is something where getting it now lets you kind of, even if the next set isn't the best, it just gives you an opportunity to make it to worlds, and I think everybody should be playing for that first, just because that level of difference is so big.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to demonstrate that and to highlight that as well, the importance of that one. It's just so much at stake. Like that is the chase down for any competitive game, is to find yourself at a world championship and to have that opportunity to seize it first. So I think a great explanation on that one. We saw that Spell Sword's enchantment is the Mirage for this one. So every single Mirage unit is going to be getting a lot of AP stacked up for each attack that they have. And as we kick things off with the augment here, I will say that Meditation is definitely a high outlook. I think that Metabolic Celery is pretty reasonable. Gear upgrades looking pretty fringe on that one. This doesn't feel like a roll through for me if I'm an Amde spot.
I think Metabolic's good enough here. You know that it's Spell Sword, and you already have Gwynso, you have a QSS component. This does, like, I keep saying, you know, maybe we'll get things other than Deja, but Spell Sword is quite strong, and especially from this spot, if you're able to take Metabolic, you're able to go 8 with a relatively healthy position, and you already have this Gwynso potentially lined up. I know Amde is somebody that was playing a few different comps yesterday, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him lean away, but certainly the Deja angle is available here given the start. I do expect to see him sell quite a bit here to get this Senna in. Wow, he's just gonna take this loss. So the reason he's taking this loss is because he has Metabolic. He doesn't really care that much if he wins or loses. But certainly, I would have. You should expect to see it go in next turn.
This is definitely an interesting spot for me. You know, Metabolic does change your outlook on the game. I think quite often on this one, where it's like how heavily can you focus on the idea of a lose streak pattern. It's a lot easier to tack together 5 losses, I think, that it is to tack together 5 wins. And so if economy is going to be your main focus and you're going to have those big finishes really come out on top, you know, really what's your focus from this spot?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's one of the reasons you do love Metabolic. It lets you get that streak much easier. I will say Amde was in a spot where he had a couple of pairs, and I think sometimes people do get pigeoned on like, oh, you know, I should lose to get value out of this Metabolic. But if you're able to win, you should just win the round. And I think in a spot like that, I don't expect him to see a 5 loss from this stage. He already has a Tarek 2, he already has a Senna 2, he's got some solid items, he got a Namzi in. I would be very surprised to see him drop all 5 on this stage. We got Robin here with the early Shimmer Scale Slam right into a gem, not what you like to see.
Yeah, Shimmer Scale Slam here into the gem. You know, you talked about this yesterday, how players, you felt like they often underestimated the gem. It's not like the necessarily best ideal unit at the start. However, later in the game, it can be quite potent.
Yes, if you're able to keep your economy up, you're basically getting another gold augment in the Ascension value. Of course, it can be very difficult to keep gold. A lot of times you go to 7, you go to 8, you're rolling it down to 0, or 10 at the very minimum, and so your Ascension value is just not that great, and the gem's only going to get you about 2 gold on average per turn, maybe 3 if you're really lucky. And but that's nothing to scoff at in the early game. Even on this stage here, Robin getting a gold here, 2 gold there, an extra 5-6 gold on this stage is going to really snowball throughout the course of the game.
Oh, indeed. I mean, the first 10 I feel like is one of the hardest one to justify, because it's either you're going to be losing really hard or your board's strong enough that, you know, how could you sell any of these units? That it often feels like the question for me. It feels like that first 10 is really the marquee. Robin feels like they have that established here, and that's, you know, largely in part to the gem. He's going to take that and say, you know what? Forget the gold. I'm going to get gold by defeating players. I'm going to cost them health. I'm going to break their streaks. we're going to do as much as possible. And this is Robin's playstyle. I would say if there's one thing you can expect from Liquid Robin, it's never to lean into the idea of the 5-loss streak.
Yeah, and just because he has the gem, the more units that stay alive, the more gold you're going to get from it. It's 2 gold for every unit, and so he's guaranteed to get 2 gold here, which is excellent. It does cost you, you saw the interest threshold, but instead he's able to maintain the win streak for sure, get a couple extra gold from this gem.
We didn't get any gold because he finished the round so
finished
fast.
the fight too quickly, so it's a bit unlucky that happens, but that's the idea, right, is to get up there and hopefully you're able to proc it, but maybe he became a little too strong.
You know, oddly enough, I think it's the first time I've ever seen it end because you won the round too quickly.
Yeah, it's certainly an unusual thing to happen, but
feels like day 3 of the Dragon's Lair Mid Set Finale. I'll say that. A lot of unexpected things have happened in the competitive scene. Clear is going to have preparation on the bench. It's always one that I have on my mind. It stands out as one of those very interesting augments to me, where it really changes up a lot of your playstyle and a lot of how your gold is really going to pack together at the end, because sometimes you're having to make some little wacky calls to get that extra AP and extra AD, and Pocky Gom sitting with a Scale Scorn emblem. Oftentimes this feels like a pretty early commitment, but frankly, a pretty strong one.
Yeah, the preparation, I think, is one of the hardest augments to actually play. It can be very difficult. A lot of times you take preparation, you just end up going 8th. And part of that just because you're usually playing a reroll comp, and reroll comps are one of those comps that you put everything into Mort Dog's hands. And if you were able to hit things, then great. And if it takes you too long to hit your 3-star unit, then you're just going to go 8th. So you should expect to see him playing some sort of reroll comp down there. Kurumx here, sitting with Build the Hunt, is a very strong, just kind of flexible augment that can go with anything. He's got Bloodthirst, he's got Morello. Those are also very flexible items that can go onto any comp here. You can play Shioyu with Bloodthirster, you can play Siphon, and towards endgame you can go Shyvana, you can go Aoshin. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of options on this one. I mean, you have Jade set up, you have Siphon set up. These are just neutral good things, and this feels like a lot of Liquid Kurum's, I think, early play style here is just it's tempo play. You'll notice that there is a 2-star Taric in play, and that's not here for a Guardian or a Jade aspect. That's here because it's 2 stars, and it bonks a little bit harder than a regular unit.
Yep. Kurum's just playing strongest board, which is great with Thrill of the Hunt. And the Thrill of the Hunt here is going to create a lot of value. It might actually be enough for this Skarner to win this fight.
Where's the Talon?
Yeah, just
Ooh,
it's very close. But Skarner, I think, is one of the best one-cost units. Skarner, if you want to looking for a unit to stack items on, Skarner can really carry a lot of fights. And that's just a difference in hitting units here. There's 4 upgrades here, and the 4 upgrades are going to carry you big time with that Thrill of the Hunt.
Love to see it. Kurumx snaps the win streak from Robin, is the only player available for the 5-win streak. And the 5-win streak, we've seen it time and time again. This is such a powerful start that feels like it all but nigh secures you for a top 4 finish.
Yeah, he's the only one in the lobby that's streaking right now. Pocky Gom potentially can hit that 4 streak, and then you got a couple guys at the bottom that are looking at the 5-loss streak. I think Amde's -4, Clear should be -4 with that kind of health threshold. And so here's Pocky. So he has a chance to guarantee that deny on Pocky, though Pocky might not even be close. It's hard to say, but
that Bloodthirster doing all the work here. It's all but canceled what this Senna has produced, even with the Scale Scorn emblem on deck. It's just double healing effect now from that ability on Aatrox.
There's just too many hits on this board. The Thrill of the Hunt is hard to deal with at this stage in the game, and Kurumx has the Morello. This is a fantastic start for him and for my fantasy chances today.
Oh, nice little call out there at the end for this one. I will say that for Clear's perspective here, it's definitely not unusual to see them going for these big loss streak spots. And to give you kind of a quote for when I was able to ask Clear some questions about their play style and how they would define it, one of their quotes was that if the Soju special is going 9 with 10 HP and then dying, that the Clear special is going to 7 with 20 HP on stage 3-5 and then dying before the 3rd augment. He's a very greedy player who is looking to play something extremely powerful from an economy perspective. It just feels like he's here time and time again.
Yeah, this is not an ideal spot to be, though. He is in a spot where he's leaning he's going to play Varus, and the Varus has not started prepping yet. So because it's not prepping, you're looking at this whole stage being a little rough. You have to roll on 3-2 and find 4 Varuses so that you can start prepping the Varus, and then you basically need to spike on that 4-1 with the Varus 3, because that's where all the prep stacks are going to come in. And if you're not unable to hit that exact timing I just described, it's going to be very difficult to snap back in this game, especially with a comp that I was, again, yesterday very critical of. Unfortunately, Clear does have some strong items, and he has a decent amount of gold, and you know, it's not the worst place to be at the moment, but a lot's going to hinge on what he draws for his next augment here.
I definitely think so. I will say that Clear feels like the player that you and I have kind of recognized, though, as having a pretty deep understanding of these forced style of compositions, and Varus was one of the ones I feel like that he was absolutely one of the most deeply knowledgeable about.
Yeah, I mean, he took a W with it yesterday, but it had really good augments, right? He had Double Trouble, he had Best Friends 3, and we'll see what comes up here. If it's come up with like defensive augments, if it's a silver augment, that's not what you want to see. If you are Clear, you are hoping for some gold, you're hoping for some silver or prismatic augments. A silver augment here could really doom him from the spot he's in.
Here we go. I can't wait for this one. Kurumx still on the win streak at this point. It feels like we have a canyon between the top and the bottom. A gold's gonna crop up here.
We do get gold. I don't think those are good enough. The Cosmic Orb there is gonna give him a lot more extra gold, and he rolls down. It does also give some items from time to time, and so you do just see that popping up here. But like I said, he needs at least 4 Varuses here in order to start stacking. Otherwise, it's gonna be quite troublesome.
Varus number 1 has been found.
That's 2, that's 3, that's 4.
There you go.
Yeah, and so he's able to sit now that he's able to prep the Varus on the bench. You should expect to see him slow it down a little bit, and now that it's going to be prepped, it'll take 4 turns for it to finish prepping. That Varus on the bench, once it combines with the one on the board, will give him an extra 32 AD, which is nothing to scoff at. And certainly good, but like I said, he might end up bleeding a little too much before that point. He does have Silas 2, he has Varus too, so his board is quite strong, but you see him running into a board like DQA's, which is also very strong. It's that Dragonmancer Nivea, he's got Ascension. It's very scary boards with the early 6 Dragonmancer.
Indeed it is. I feel like Anivia has been one of the most surprising Dragonmancers to crop up as like a premier unit that can hoist this item as well. But I will say, I think it Clear's board is looking pretty strong. You know, the items on the starting Varus here, these are like nigh ideal as your 2 starting for Varus at this point, able to go to 20 gold. I mean, this feels like it could be a turnaround spot here for Clear.
Yeah, DQA spot's definitely awkward. You can already tell that Anivia is just an item holder. That's not where he wants to go eventually with it. I do expect to see, with those items, he's leaning more towards a Swain carry into maybe a Shyvana mid or end game pivot. But with that level of gold, it's going to be very difficult for DQA to really stabilize that board. I think he rolled at 3-2, maybe a 3-1, and was unfortunate with it. You see a couple of Scale Scorns here. This is an angle where you're able to hit 6 Scale Scorn, which is quite strong. It's something we haven't seen too often because it's very difficult to get the double Scale Scorn spat, and I'll be excited to see if he is comfortable enough with it to navigate the 6 Scale Scorn here. He already has the Olaf 2, he has a Nunu 2 with Scale Scorn, he's got some great items kind of spread out on the team right now.
Look, I'm going to say this. I don't think that Pocky Gom is really uncomfortable with compositions. I feel like Pocky Gom is one of the most creative players that's in the scene. And when you're able to present him with these options where it's these unusually powerful things that require pretty specific conditions, it feels like that Pocky Gom ends up in these positions quite often, almost as if he's looking for these in particular.
Yeah, I hope we get 6 Scale Scorn. It was actually buffed recently from 100% extra damage to 125%, so it's a lot of extra damage. It is no joke. Unfortunately, the traditional Olaf and Diana, they just aren't as strong as they were at other points in this set, and so we'll see. This is not something that many people are very comfortable playing with. Pocky, as you mentioned, has played a lot of different things, so we'll see how he's able to navigate it.
Got a very creative mind and understands things pretty well. And as I'm looking across here, you know, we saw Bertasaurus' board as well. It looked pretty comfortable for him to kind of coast to 7 at least, and then figure out exactly what they want to do. Kurumx still on the win streak, undefeated so far through the Stage 3 carousel. And then Pocky Gom and Robin and Darth Nub kind of sitting in these pretty comfortable spots. DQA has been kind of hovering in the middle as well. But again, it just feels like the top to bottom right now is the canyon, but it does kind of slide its way down. It's not these giant drop-offs really at any point so far.
Yeah, the interesting player to watch there is going to be Bertasaurus, who was a high pick for everybody coming into this tournament. And he sit there with, he took Rich Get Richer as his first augment. He's got Exiles, and it's just a ton of gold. He already has the Itis in, which is going to proc in a little bit of extra gold. You already see the Archangel and the Gunblade Slam. That indicates he's leaning towards something like an Aoshin. He's leaning towards something like a Shyvana. He's definitely one of those 10 cost carries would be great here. You can also switch over into the Deja, this Spell Sword. Those are pretty strong items on them.
It's easy right at the front as well. Really focusing on the frontline aspect and just trying to win like almost via attrition at this point. Kind of makes sense with the items. You have a healing item and you have a scaling natural damage on your AP. Bertasaurus, I feel like, just has like a really strong understanding of like the item economy spots and when you're able to take into account these styles of play as well, because I feel like so much of this is reliant on the lobby context too.
Yeah, you see DQA does shift over to that Swain carry. With the Ascension, Swain is one of those units, and Dragon answers one of those comps that often goes down to that last. It's just that Swain versus the world, and Ascension is going to give that extra 50% damage. That's going to be a big difference for him going down the wire.
That was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, Swain versus the World.
Swain versus the world.
Waiting for the variant 3 of that one to come out. And I think so is DQA with that 3-star idea. Bertasaurus chilling here on the gold.
Yeah, it's a good amount of front line. We'll see what he ends up choosing to go with. There's a lot of different options in terms of which carry he can run here. And Bertasaurus is one of those players that's very good at playing a lot of different flex positions. He's already level 7 with 60 gold, getting the extra little bit of interest from the rich get richer. I do expect this to be a 4-2 roll down, go 8, and roll. You know, he should be able to roll about 50 gold on that turn, and it's going to be interesting to see what he chooses to pivot into. He's, again, one of the best players on the ladder, and from this spot, you would trust that he's able to come up with something quite solid.
Seems to be a fairly relaxed player as well. I feel like Bertasaurus' mental is pretty on point. Yesterday, we saw Bertasaurus needed back-to-back first-place finishes in their final 2 games to have that shot at day 3. And what did they crank out? Back-to-back first-place finishes. Aurelion Sol shows up!
As a nice unit here, would love to be able to play both dragons. Maybe you can get Dragon Alliance on the next augment. I'd be curious to see if it actually plays out. Aurelion Sol is one of those units that's really awkward, and it's much less about Aurelion Sol than it is about the rest of your board. Because if the rest of your board is able to survive until that 12-second threshold where Aurelion Sol is able to ascend and cast an ult that covers the whole board, you are often going to win the fight at that point. So we'll see if he's able to get a front line cobbled up together around it, or if he's going to pivot and lean towards somewhere else. But it's certainly a good start to have. You don't hate rolling. You don't hate hitting a 10-cost dragon on level 7, let me tell you.
Indeed you do not. And the 4-1 inflection point here, it feels like a lot of players are trying to strengthen their board in this spot. Darth Nub has a lot of different directions they can go, but frankly, they lean pretty heavily in one or the other.
This is Screamin' Deja. Wow, so he's going to hit the Itis and take it. This is going to buy a lot of time. And I'm curious to see if he decides to commit to it. I do expect this to eventually be a pivot. With the Mirage Spat, the Mirage Augment for his second option, this is definitely going to be a spot where he wants to go Deja. Unfortunately, on that roll down, he didn't find Deja, which is something I've talked about before is, hey, sometimes you can roll. If you're leaning towards one comp and you roll and you hit nothing, your game's just scuffed from there. And that's why a lot of players do prefer flex, but sometimes you don't have that option. And you do see Bert transition into this Asol.
Goodness, and Bert's just chilling on 50 gold as well. And hits the threshold here. Golly, that Hex Tech is just a savior in this spot with how much health it restores.
Yeah, there's just no damage. It's a really bad spot to be in here for Darth Nub. It's just, you don't have any damage on your board. Yeah, you hit this Itis, but the Itis, that's not what you needed, right? The Itis is not going to you the damage you want. So there's Dragon Alliance, but I believe he sold the Itis already. I would be surprised to see him lean back into Dragon from this spot, but it's certainly an open option. There's a lot of things Bert can do. Bert, again, this is going to be very exciting roll down. Yeah, so he takes the shield. That's going to affect Exiles, which is great. You're going to see him roll it down here, looking for a front line more than anything. If he's able to hit the Silas 2, the Ornn 2, you can really sit on that with just this Asol 1. Yeah, Bard is a great find here. Silas 2, yeah, at this point, yeah, you can just sit on this board. Those were the 2 things he really needed to hit. He has the Bard here that's going to increase the odds of finding the Asol, and I do expect to see him just kind of commit to this board here. The Asol is probably a placeholder for Ao Shin, considering you've hit the Ornn 2, but you can also just run it all the way to the end of the game here. That was a very great roll down for Bert. He doesn't have to roll all of his gold. He's level 8 with 26, and his board is very strong. You would expect it to be able to, if not win out this stage, and at least maintain his health at a stable level, and let him go for 9 from this spot. And at 9, that's when you can really go for the win with these 10-cost dragons. And like I was saying earlier, you got to make some aggressive plays when the stakes are this high. You're like, it's the first that really matter. And Bert's coming off back-to-back wins, so he'll definitely be looking for a third one here.
There's 2 things I want to highlight about this particular fight with the augment selection in general. The first one is that I have detested Exiles for a very long time. I will say that this set changed my mind on it a lot. And if you watch that fight in the bottom right, Siphon charged into the corner of a Heimerdinger and was not able to one-shot it because of the Exiles plus the healing aid benefits that you get on that shield. So that is a lot of initial front line that Bertasaurus has lined up. That is going to be a tough one to chop through, and I feel like that he has got a great position to coast his way to 9. Over on Amde's side here, this is very much the like hard commitment role that you were talking about here, where if you can get stuck in a spot like this can be an absolute disaster if you don't hit.
Yeah, this is the Namsi. I was talking about this yesterday, where if you are stuck rolling at 7, you're definitely gonna go bot 4, unless you're very lucky and just hit the Siphon 2. He is sitting on a pair of Siphons. He's sitting on a pair of Porkies here. He finds the early Zoe. That's gonna be a huge help for the team. But even if he hits these things, he has no gold. Getting to level 8 from this spot is gonna be so difficult that Amde is sitting in a spot where he's like, okay, this game, I'm not going to get a first in, so how can I salvage placements? How can I go from 8th to 7th? How can I go from 7th to 6th? And that's going to kind of be his game plan from here on out. Just, his gold is not where it needs to be for a first.
Tell you what, though, it feels like the Ascension plus plus all this extra that you're getting from Zoe certainly can highlight that as well. Clear lost the win streak. They had a win streak going into this round. DQA is now sitting on top. And so look at those augments over to the side as well. DQA getting Thrill of the Hunt, in addition to this Dragonmancer plus Ascension augment that he had. It feels like that is a tremendous highlight for the Swain versus the world aspect, even if that ends up changing over on who's handling that Dragonmancer idea.
Yeah, it's just fantastic augments if you're looking for that Swain carry. We'll have to see how close he is to hitting Swain 3, or if he's going to push for 8 instead. You do see Clear Hit press the attack as his 3rd augment. That's a great augment if you're playing Varus. It's going to give you the damage you need to cut through some of these dragons. Sometimes Varus just gets stuck on the Itis, he gets stuck on the Siphon, gets stuck on even Shioyus. But with press the attack, he is going to be blowing through some tanks. And Kurumx is able to hit the 2-star Shioyu here. And unfortunately, he's still in the Nico waiting room. So this board is not quite as strong as it would like to be, but he's sitting on 29 health. He's able to just sit and chill for a little bit. He does desperately need the Nico, though. As I've mentioned before, Nico and not Shioyu, not Nivea, is the linchpin of the Jade comp. You need that Nico to stall time for the rest of your comp to do stuff.
I'm kind of liking where he's at, though. Titans plus Bloodthirster on this Shioyu is not a joke. You also have the cybernetic aspect, plus you have the Ascension, plus you have Thrill of the Hunt. So if you don't really cut through this team right away, it is a lot more powerful, I'd say, than your typical Jade is right now. And honestly, that just feels like the augments across the board. We're on 3 golds for this lobby, and almost everybody has some sort of highlight to benefit the composition they have in play from a combat augment perspective.
Yeah, just playing around your augments properly, it's really good to see. You'll again, with the Ascension and with Titans and with the Cybernetic Shell, you're almost always guaranteed to see that Shioyu ascend. And once he ascends, the thing that's kind of lacking when you're going Bloodthirster and Titans is a bit of damage. But with the Ascension, you're not too worried about that. With the Cybernetic Shell, you're not worried about him being too flimsy. And it's certainly a good spot to be for him, especially in terms of augments here. And you already have the Archangel Soraka. That's a unit that can really pop off with the right items on it, and it's given some time. Kurum's already number 2 in the lobby. He's going to be healing 2 every turn, and his spot's pretty good. At this point, he really just wants to roll for probably a 1-star Nico even, get that in, and he's able to sit and go 9.
EQA going to 8. No gold left with a Swain 2. And that's nothing on the bench.
Yeah, this Swain is no joke. Ooh. You see it. This Swain is blasting through this team here. It's going to full heal. And the Shiryu does get a big heal there, though. But I'm not sure if it's enough. Holy moly. Yeah, I mean, that's a Thrill gap there. You see that the Shioyu was able to heal so much thanks to the Thrill of the Hunt there. Just a bit of maybe bad RNG for DQA and the way some of the last hits came in there, because it's all it takes is like somebody steals last hit here or there, and that Shioyu was going down, and nothing else was going to be able to touch the Swain.
Robin takes the first cash out on the Treasure Dragon here. Everyone's board about to get kind of finalized with these last pieces of items. Sometimes you're missing something entirely, sometimes you're missing nothing at all, and it's just a highlight here. Really looking for that Deja 2, or at this point even a Yasuo 2 to highlight that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's desperate at this point. This is actually a lobby where we didn't see that many Dejas, and I do expect to sell the Yone, sell the Hecarim. It's unfortunate, but you can also sell the Lulu here.
I was kind of wondering how important the Lulu is in this spot. I mean, I know that Robin really does not like to sell 2-star stuff.
Yeah, it's so hard to sell that 2-star. I think you could have made arguments either way. This is obviously the stronger board strength at the moment. and maybe the Deja is enough to stabilize. It's got great items, and he did get second wind as his last augment. That maybe buys enough time. He's got the ZZ Ra on the front line. And at this point, he's hoping to survive to the carousel, see if there's a Yone on there that can pop up and just get the free 2-star Yone. That would be his way to really stabilize. We saw the rest of the lobbies looking quite strong, though. I'd be surprised to see Robin. I'd be surprised if Robin was comfortable with this spot. There's just not enough upgrades. There's not enough frontline in order to buy enough time for this Deja to really stack up. But he does get a nice charge from this Deja for his, or not from Siphon for his favor, though. This Siphon's going to go down without really doing much in this fight, which means that this Deja is going to go untouched and just clean up the board.
Yeah, quick Zephyr there at the end from Robin's spot as well. I was kind of curious what he was going to do with the items. I feel like the choice was like a QSS on a Yasuo or the Zephyr and try to cheat some units out of play. Darth Nub fallen to the last place spot at the moment with 25 health remaining. Bertasaurus taking a hit, and Kurumx feels like that they are absolutely shining with the way that these augments are panning out right now. And really not much more improvement to be made on that board. That feels like a head to 9 sort of scenario.
Kurumx chilling. You see here, there's no QSS on this swing. That extra damage item is going to be helpful towards the end of the fight. But at the beginning of the fight, you might see the CC kind of ruin his day. Fortunately, right now, there's not as much CC in play. I think typically in like a Xayah meta, there's going to be a couple Xayah players every fight, and there's a lot of CC on that board. You're not going to see as much of it on, say, Deja, which is usually just that Hecarim. And if you're able to dodge the Zona, these Siphon boards aren't going to be that big of a deal either.
The difference that this Dragonmancer emblem is making on this team as well. Like that one Dragonmancer emblem is enabling about like 3 different factors to come into play here on level 8.
Yes, it's very strong to get one early. And you're going to see that Siphon just get focused down. Both of them proc, but there's nothing left that can touch this Swain. This fight's going to be very easy to win for DQA from this point. He's sitting very comfortable there. You're going to see him probably roll down on 6-1 for a Swain 3. That's going to be his win condition here. I would be very surprised to see him push for 9. From this spot, the gold is a little awkward, but maybe he's able to hit an early Sylvana or so. Yeah,
5-3 level 9 for Bertasaurus.
Yeah, you see him going 9. This was pretty expected. You see with the Morello slam, it's likely he's just going to commit to this Aurelion Soul. It's one of the best. This is a really good combo. Like I said, Aurelion Soul just needs a lot of frontline, and because of his augments, which are, excuse me, Exiles and Healing Kit. That's going to buy a lot of extra time for him. You see even the Namzi's position in the front line. You see even these mages, this Heimerdinger being put in front of this Acel, because that's all that really matters is whether this Acel pops or not. And he's also able to dodge the Zephyr. You see Robin in dire straits over there. This very tough matchup. This Deja takes a while to ramp up, and because it takes a while to ramp up, it also gives Acel a lot of time to ramp up.
It's kind of interesting, though, because taking the time to ramp really mutes 2 of the augments. I'd say on Bertasaurus' side, it's just, does the Deja outshine what's available here on the team comp?
Yeah, so
really,
you see the full
I think that
cast
hit right
here,
there.
and it depends on that did not kill it, but I don't think the Acel has enough damage at this point. Yeah, just the Acel one just not enough to take down this Deja. Deja having that Hodge is a huge deal there. Without the Hodge, it would have slowly chipped and likely would have died at the end there.
All 8 players still alive for the Stage 5 carousel, albeit 2 of them on a thread right now. Darth Nub at 7, Robin at 9, Clear and Amde at 13 and 14, and then a pretty big jump to the top 4, all the way up to Kurumx at 79 HP and 5-4.
The players we were worried about in the mid game are towards the bottom right now. Amde was in a spot I was very worried about because he was stuck rolling at 7. Clear was playing the Varus comp I was not particularly a big fan of. Robin got stuck on the Deja, took him too long to hit it. And Darth Nub, we've been through a couple times, another Deja player that was unable to hit early. He was the one that rolled and found 0 Dejas on 4-1. He's been able to find the Deja 2 at this point. Like I said, he pivoted out of the Idas 2 he hit earlier. He does have a Shroud. He does have a Zeke's Herald. He has Lockheed in the backline, but there's no Yasuo on this board. That is going to be one of the key differences heading into Stage 5 is anytime your Deja board feels very weak, it's probably because you don't have a Yasuo that has decent items on it. It's really hard to just rely on a single point of focus for damage at this point in the game.
I'm not minding it so much because he does have hallucination, so this frontline Nunu is not getting torn through, and I feel like that's buying a ton of time. Really, for me, it's the items on the Deja. Like, this Deja doesn't really have a ramp capacity outside of the natural element from the Mirage, so you're just not speeding up. If you don't actually cut through a piece of the line, you're just going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think the damage to that Zoe bubble is critical there. So the Zoe bubble literally is what's going to be the difference there. The Siphon might have lived either way. I'm not sure if the Edge of Night was ever even procced. Even without that Zoe bubble, that still might have been a loss, but certainly it would have been much closer, and that's going to feels really bad for Darth Nub there to watch Zoe cast the bubble right in his face, sending him to an early 8th. That is not how you want to start the day.
And as you mentioned with DQA, it looks like he's been rolling a little bit more aggressively. He wasn't just saving up for the 6-1 aspect.
Yeah, he's sitting
or perhaps they just all showed up. I don't really know.
He's sitting on 8 Swains. I'm surprised to see him not just roll twice more to stay at 10. But perhaps he doesn't want to dip below 10 here, which is also a fine play. He's not in any danger of going out anytime soon. This should be a very comfortable top 4 finish for DQA, if not a first.
It's also just if no one's challenging you, like if you're just kind of picking up some pretty soft losses and some pretty decisive wins, why spend the gold?
That was a very smart Zephyr from Robin. Anytime you're seeing somebody else that just has a solo frontline tank, usually that's going to be Nico. Usually that's going to be Idas. If you have a Zephyr, it's often better to just Zephyr their frontline unit so that your whole board can walk onto their back line. Yeah, but there's just not enough damage here. This Swain is going to finish off the Deja, and you're going to see both Deja players go 8th and 7th. They just weren't able to hit fast enough. They were neither of them were able to get a Yasuo of any value onto their board, and they're just going to go 7-8 there to save clear, playing the Varus comp. As I said, the augment just did not appear to be good enough, and he takes a 6, but he'll probably be happy with that given his spot.
Kurumx winning again and sitting on 50 gold with the win, no less. Bertasaurus now sitting on the cutting board for that 5th place finish. But I will say that Bertasaurus' board still looked pretty good. He's still got time to put some together here. I'm really interested to see how DQA puts this together. If it doesn't get put together, what does that mean for their position and how strong Kurum's board's going to get?
Yeah, even from this spot, Bert's got to be one of the favorites to still win the lobby, given that he's level 9. He's been level 9 for a while. He's got great augments for what he's trying to play. It's just a matter of can he hit that Aesol. Oh, even if he hits the Aesol, one of the things that Aesol struggles with is single target DPS, and something like the Swain can really just outlast anything that Aesol is pumping into him. So we'll see him roll here for this Swain 3. If he's able to hit the Swain 3, this is a bad news for everybody else. He should be able to hit it given he has 30 gold. But sometimes you roll and you don't hit.
DQA is very quick at the rolling aspect as well.
Yeah,
Thinning out the pool, the minuscule difference of picking 3s out of the pool while you roll.
Yeah,
I feel like DQA is one of the players who wastes no time doing this.
He's so fast. This is that Zoomer blood, the young kid energy. He is one of these players that is a phenomenal player. He hasn't been playing as much of the set, but in terms of raw talent, I don't think you find very many people who doubt him. We do see him going against Pocky Gom. We haven't seen much of the scale score on board, but you see the Olaf gets IE on it, he gets Assassin Spat on it, and that's a lot of scale scorings out there. It's a lot of extra magic damage, but he jumps wrong corner. The Swain is still firing.
The damage is just so much. Like, even when you're losing, just look at how much the board got cut down from Pocky Gom's perspective.
It's so much damage.
The bad jump.
But I don't know if he ever wins that fight. Even with... we'll see what happens, though. Maybe they're able to get him that Swain earlier, but that Swain 3 is about to come online. There's not enough CC to lock down that Swain. Yeah, you see the... Bert does transition to Aoshin. I believe that was an Aoshin 2. I would not be surprised to see Bert just round it out and win the lobby from this spot. Unfortunately, I don't know if the damage items were there for the Aoshin to be able to cut through the Swain, and so we'll see. How does the Swain 3 fare? But this is a very strong board from DQA. This is basically the dream board if you're able to find a Dragonmancer spec and you want to lean towards Swain. It's great augments, it's great upgrades, great items across the board. Lee Sin here draws fantastic items. He's got anti-healing. He's got pretty much everything he would really want here.
I mean, it's pretty close to ideal from this spot. I mean, what's the upgrade?
Well, the upgrade is you go 9 and you get Savannah in.
Yeah, exactly. So Pocky Gom, we got word hit Olaf 3 in that one. I did miss that on the sidebar, so that's a big difference on that one. I will say that Olaf 3 with an assassin emblem and the Infinity Edge and 6 scale scoring in play is going to be dealing a heaping pile of damage. And I'm looking at this sidebar right now. Bertasaurus with the Aoshin looked like that they were very impactful. Kurumx finally takes a loss. Amde on the chopping block for getting knocked out here, but this is really going to boil down to how this charge ends up hitting. Doesn't at all. Amde down to 4 now.
Yeah, Amde was able to stay alive for quite a while despite being in a fairly desperate situation. He was able to hit the Siphon 2 on level 7 and was able to then sneak up to level 8 and already had the Zoe from a nice roll at level 7, so certainly not a bad spot for him to be in, but this is not ideal. Yeah, there's the warrior spat finally getting some value with the Yasuo coming in.
Gosh, this board, you know, it kind of looks like it's been cobbled together. There's a lot of powerful stuff here. Just it feels like it feels like something's missing, and I just don't know exactly what it is.
It's usually Bard over Yasuo, and you're also usually able to go 9, play a Sona. It's just one of these spots where it's fairly standard in terms of what units are there. It just he wasn't able to hit the spikes in terms of leveling and econ that he needed to. And so it's going to be pretty difficult for him. Yeah, you're going to see the Scale Scorn comp just run all over him. It's just so much damage on this board. And Amde will take a 4th tier. The top 4 boards are all very strong. These are all boards that could win in the correct game. You're going to see this cast go off, and it's just not enough. Maybe if he was on the left side, that would have finished it. So this could just be a positioning gap where Bert needs to make sure he's opposite side of that Swain.
Amde, Darth Nub, Robin, all of the bonus point earners coming into day 3 in the bottom 4 right now.
That's going to balance it out. That's going to make the next few games and the rest of the day much more interesting.
Mind you, this is the kickoff to the day, so this is really getting the sketch onto the canvas of what the image is going to look like. So there's still plenty more work to be done in this one, but that is a great equalizer, I'd say, for the rest of the players here. DQA looking for today, hunting down a 3rd trip to a world championship. Kurumx just continuing to stamp together consistent performances. Pocky Gom in the same way, kind of taking the time off for set 6 and coming back in set 7 with a pretty strong performance. And Bertasaurus just kind of highlighting the consistency aspect from theirs as well. In that same regard, it's just this board from Bertasaurus is like, oh my gosh, what was actually taking this down besides what we've seen on DQA side so far?
This board could be very susceptible to Pocky Gom's board if the Olaf jumps directly on it and the rain doesn't come down on him. Sometimes that's enough. This is gonna be a tough fight for Kurumx, but the Shioyu is on the right side here. You do want him to try and wrap around to that back line here. I don't know if it's enough though. There's just so much shielding, so much healing gonna come in. Here comes the first cast. And
online.
Kurumx does ascend though. That could be enough here. There's still no damage being put onto the Shioyu. He's still just going to town on everybody.
This feels like Zoe's gonna have to pick up the, what's been dropped here so far. I mean, right now, I'm really worried for this Aoshin 3rd cast coming away, and it's not enough.
Not enough. Bert, that's gonna be exact lethal. Gonna send him down to 0 with such a strong board. He still takes a 4th there. That's gonna feel really bad. That is a board that takes 1st in a lot of different lobbies. I think the big difference there though is there's just not enough damage. Bert is sitting on 2 defensive augments, and then he has a defensive item on the Aoshin. He has a Shojin, which isn't adding any extra damage either. You would have really loved seeing triple damage item from him there, or at the very least not have that Gunblade and have like a Giant Slayer, have like a Death Cap. But I think 3 damage items there, you just really want that single cast to be much more lethal than it was there. But you saw it cast 3rd time and really just was not able to punch through Kurum's board.
Goodness, I'm loving this board from Pocky's side. Having this Yasuo hold the Scale Scorns and 2 Zeeks, it just feels like that he's absolutely like the leader of the team right now in a pure morale perspective.
It's so much damage. You just watch it. The whole board just like instantly disappeared here. And they just corral. This type of board, every single time you see boards like this, you're thankful that Assassin hasn't been in meta that much this set. Assassin's definitely one of the anti-fun comps in the game where if you get assassinated, you just want to curse somebody, you want to get on Twitter. It is very maddening when you lose to Assassins.
Look, I'm just saying, if you're trying to assassinate something, you don't hire a ton of them. You get one in secret.
Yeah,
the more of that are there, the more obvious it's happening.
Yeah, that is.
I'm just saying.
What if you have to assassinate multiple targets, though?
Well, yeah.
Not that we know anything about assassins.
Sure.
Yeah, I've never assassinated anybody.
Yeah, can't tell you about that. Otherwise, I'd have to assassinate you as well. For Hodge picked up here, it doesn't feel like the items are really any relevance to Pocky Gom at this point. It feels like this is a mana piece more than anything else, and it feels like positioning is really going to be the rest of the day here for Pocky Gom.
Yeah, you certainly don't hate it on extra healing on any of these damages. They're all doing infinite damage. I'll be curious to see how that matches up against the Swain board here. But we're heading to stage 7, and these are 3 players that all have quite a bit of health flow. So here's the Shyvana. Like I said, he was able to go 9. It does feel bad to lose that extra bruiser buff. That's 200 health across the whole team. He just dropped a ton of health, but it's Shyvana, and it's 6 Rage Wing for the Swain.
Who do you think that Kurumx is going up against next? Because it feels like it's some Assassins.
Yeah, I mean, technically this comp should fare quite well into Assassins. Unfortunately, Nico's still 1-star. Unfortunately, One Star Nico's just not going to do what it needs to do. Doesn't have any items on it.
You just
but
hammered away
instantly
with
on this Olaf.
the Bard stasis as well. The Olaf goes down.
There's the clump. Yeah, once you know you're against the assassin player and you're able to actually think about it and position properly, there are a lot of different ways to counteract that. You can put all your damage dealers in the front. You can clump everything in the back and get all the CC around it. So really great positioning from Kurumx there to send Pocky Gom out to a third really fun scale scoring comp from him, but it was unfortunately not enough to win in this lobby, and we're down to Swain versus Xiaoyu. This is a battle of a couple of big boys.
This is a heads-up battle with a pretty deep line of health total here as well. 9 Jade versus, I think, the rare circumstance where Swain can show up. I really feel like this was great recognition from DQA, because Swain has kind of gotten hammered down quite a bit alongside the Dragonmancer aspect in this one. You have to have some pretty specific items and some pretty specific augments, I think, to make this Swain comp work, and he's done it so well so far. Yeah,
you're also seeing Kurumx set up for a potential transition out of this Xiaoyu if it feels like he can't win, and right now, yeah, it's just not enough to get on this back line here. Honestly, wasn't even close to getting to that Swain. That Swain
just recap, right?
That Swain destroyed that Xiaoyu, and so I would expect to see him look to pivot here based on the results of that fight. And yeah, so he already has the Archangel. It's the one item you need. There's a healing item as well. I will be curious to see. You should see the Xiaoyu go out, and it'll probably be Archangel, Titans, and Hodge going onto that Acel. And DQA's really got nothing else to do. Like, not really much you can do in terms of movement. You're just chilling.
Yeah, it's Shyvana 2 waiting room at that point. Kurumx rolling down, but kind of running out of gold and running out of time as well. This is looks like it's gonna be potentially another lost spot here, but you are heading into Carousel. So if you're not knocked out, you still have a bit of a chance here to make something happen.
Okay, so you decided to opt for the Morello on the Ocean instead. That's definitely not bad, because at least you can apply Morello now on this back line. CC's gonna be quite good into this Swain. We'll see if the cast even goes off, and it does. I don't know if it'll be enough. Unfortunately, the cast went off right before the Ascension. He does buy enough time to get one more round here. It was a big transition for Kurumx. He's grateful to get this extra round here, just so he can really think about what he needs to do. He would love to get that Yasuo, but there's no way DQA is giving it to him. It's on the wrong side. Unfortunately, there's also a big Zephyr here, but he's going to need to hit that Zephyr twice. Fortunately, that Swain in the corner, there's only 2 or 3 spots it can really be in. And so, as long as you're clumping everything around there, I should be able to pop it up. And DQA also hits Shyvana too. So, going to be quite difficult for Kurumx to actually win this one at this point. This is dream board in terms of what Swain needs to do to win. If you're ever curious, yeah, he's able to pivot away from this Jade, which makes positioning a lot more flexible. Unfortunately, he does want the Chalice spots. There's only ever going to be a few spots that the Swain can possibly be in, and we'll see if Kurumx is able to position for that or not. And unfortunately, this is what you do: is you lean it into the corner, and so he's not going to get that off. He does get the knock up on the Shyvana, which is also a big deal at this point. That Shyvana is packing.
This is a big fight with a lot at stake right now. Shyvana hovering towards the back. It does not stop the Ocean before the cast. The Ascension
spikes at that point up. Well, and he does get it. It's Dragon versus Dragon.
The Shyvana's got a lot of
Here's casting.
This breath is a ton of damage, but it's not enough to finish.
Oh my god, it actually got him.
Holy smokes, what a fight.
Wow, that was from, that was a rat in a corner actually fighting. That's, holy moly, I can't believe you actually won that.
That is insane. The king can bleed is what we've seen right now, and there's one more fight that can take place. If neither player's knocked out in this one, we're going to stage 8.
It's also interesting here that he opts to keep the Zephyr away from this Ocean. I think part of that is he wants to time this first cast with the Ascension, but it looks like he's changed it now. I'm curious if this actually makes it weaker, because this might cast and finish the cast before the first Ascension, and that was what actually killed it.
Ooh, he loses the 50-50.
That's unfortunate. That Zephyr could have gone either way. Does not get the Swain. If it gets the Swain, there does. Ooh. Yeah, this thing's gonna cast. Unfortunately, it casts before the Ascension goes off, and it does not leave the Swain at 1. And that is not going to be enough. That is very unfortunate. That was the difference last fight, was the Ascension procced in the last couple hits. I think putting the Zeeks there might have actually made him weaker, because it does not cast right when the Ascension procs. Instead, it casted a little ahead of time. It does not get the extra